Venezuelan people commemorate the 30th anniversary of the civic-military rebellion of February 4th, 1992, with a large mobilization. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin met in Beijing ahead of the official opening of the Winter Olympics in the Chinese capital. Ethiopia will be hosting the African Union Summit this weekend. The continent's leaders will discuss human capital, coups in the region, conflicts and terrorism, as well as socio-economic development. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Now we begin. Every February 4th, Venezuela celebrates the first rebellion and uprising of the commander, then Lieutenant Hugo Chavez. And this Friday marks the 30th anniversary of those events that set the path for the Bolivarian Revolution and the transformative process of Venezuela from neoliberalism to socialism. To elaborate more on the matter, we receive our dear friend of us, Dr. Roland, political analyst. We welcome Dr.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to receive you here. So, 3 decades ago, the then Lieutenant Hugo Chavez had to acknowledge the failed attempt of his armed rebellion, which could be seen as defeat at the time. But exactly what historical importance had February 4th, 1992 for the political process against neoliberalism in Venezuela and also for the Bolivarian Revolution?
Well, today is Dignity Day for Venezuela. What does it mean? Imperialist forces under propaganda empire had forced us to focus on the idea that freedom and democracy are the fundamentals of a free and open society. While freedom and real democracy are important, they carry with them important constraints or some constraints, adjectives, misunderstandings, manipulations, and limitations in general that make them of limited value when we confront injustice and oppression. Who labels a system to be democratic and free? Under what pretenses and interests? So those are hard questions that we need to ask ourselves. And if we think about it, when big landowners in the United States finally realized that it was cheaper for them to free the slaves, what kind of freedoms slaves had after that? They were supposed to be free, but what kind of freedom was that? Were they able to really participate in democracy? Even today, there is no real democracy in the United States. Even today, we are still dealing with all the hardship of many, many centuries of oppression, not only because of the Spanish colonization, but also because of the US, first British and then US oppression, colonization, and imperialism. So what does it mean for Chavez in February 4th, 30 years ago, to confront the system that has been established, that had been established to promote the idea that Venezuela was a free country, when in reality it was serving US interests and imperialist interests? It was because it's not just about freedom and democracy, which can be skewed through propaganda and through manipulation of the mass media and of the political discourse. It was about dignity. It was about opening the door for the Venezuelan people to regain their dignity. That's the fundamental aspect. That's what we call it Dignity Day. because they can take away your freedom. They can take away democracy if they see that their interest is in danger. In terms of the very limited democracy that exists in capitalist countries and in the United States, they can take away that. They can take away just the right to vote for the candidates they choose, but they cannot take away your dignity as easily. They can put you in jail. They can force you to try to do things in a certain way. They can try to make you starve and to starve your family. That's one of the reasons why they impose sanctions. That's why one of the reasons they impose blockades. We have 60 years of blockades in Cuba. That's outrageous. But why do they do that? Because they want you to sell your dignity. And that's something that Chavez gave us. Chavez gave the Venezuelan people this tremendous gift of recovering a dream, recovering a hope for a better future, for a better way of understanding our relationships as countries, as people, our relationship with nature. And that's the beauty of the Bolivarian Revolution. No one is limiting you to think in a way, in a certain way, or to limiting you to about doing things in a certain way. That's dignity. You can do, you can be who you really are. You can think the way you really think. And that is priceless. That's what we are celebrating today. That's what we are.
So we are confronting technical issues in our communication with Dr. Zerland, who is a political analyst and also an expert in Latin American topics. And regarding these topics today, we are also talking with him about the 30 years ago that Chavez ignited a rebellion against the IMF, better known the date as the Dignity Day for Venezuelan people, and also 4th of February 1992, as we know. Former president, late president, a dear leader of the revolution, Hugo Chavez, started this process of the Bolivarian Revolution. Now we go into a short break. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin met in Beijing ahead of the official opening of the Winter Olympics in the Chinese capital. In a joint statement, the two leaders reaffirmed their support for each other's foreign policy, while they also agreed on wider security issues. Both expressed concern over the AUKUS defense alliance, which includes Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Both heads of state also discussed a variety of issues, including trade and business deals, cooperation in lunar exploration, and plans to create financial mechanisms to offset the negative impact of unilateral sanctions. Russian leader attended the opening ceremony of the 2022 Winter Games, joining dozens of foreign dignitaries, including other presidents. Both heads of state back a joint call for NATO to halt its plans for further expansion and avoid the continuation of the Cold War mentality.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation to the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. We know well that this is an enormous work. We're confident that our Chinese colleagues have accomplished it flawlessly, as it always happens here during the preparation of such large events.
We remain on topic. During his visit on Friday, Vladimir Putin held his country's unprecedented ties with China at a time of growing tensions with the West over Ukraine and other issues.
As for our bilateral relations, they are developing in a progressive way with a spirit of friendship and strategic partnership. They have indeed become unprecedented. It is an example of dignified relations who help to mutually develop and support mutual development.
Argentine President Alberto Fernandez arrived in Beijing on Friday morning to attend the opening ceremony of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games and related activities. The Argentine head of state arrived in Moscow on Wednesday to formally start his tour of Russia, China and Barbados, where on Thursday he had his first official meeting with his counterpart from the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. After concluding his stay in Russia, where he stressed his interest in strengthening ties with Putin's administration, the Argentine leader traveled to Beijing with a packed agenda and meetings with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping. And fireworks lit up the Beijing skyline as China launched the Winter Olympics on Friday. The opening ceremony began just after the arrival of Chinese President Xi Jinping and International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach at the National Stadium that hosted the inaugural event at the 2008 Olympics. With the dimming of the lights, Beijing became the first city to host both Winter and Summer Games. The Olympics and the opening ceremony are always an exercise in performance for the host nation, a chance to showcase its culture and define its place in the world. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on Friday extended his best wishes to the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games, noting that the Olympics will contribute to uniting and solidifying people worldwide.
To see people coming from all over the world and with a strong message of unity and solidarity. These Olympic Games are exactly the moment in which we remind people we cannot defeat the COVID country by country. We need to come together, as in the Games. I wish the best success for the Olympics, and I wish a very happy, prosperous and peaceful year of the Tiger.
And Russian authorities denounced a strategy of information manipulation by Western powers to reinforce the version of an alleged military attack by Moscow on Ukraine. The Kremlin issued an alert after the United States government and the United States media claimed that Russia will broadcast a video of an alleged aggression by Ukraine against Russian territory to justify its attack on the neighboring nation. The Russian executive condemned the accusations, although he assured that his strategy promoted by the White House is not new, and recalled that this type of maneuvers had been used by the United States to justify its military invasions of other countries. Troops from Russia and Belarus have begun joint drills as part of combat readiness training ahead of the planned Union Resolve 2022 exercises due to take place later this month. The Russian Defense Ministry published a video showing tanks, helicopters and other military vehicles engaging in synchronized advancements. According to officials, the drills are taking place at the 3 separate bases in Belarus. The current stage, known as Combat Cohesion, is designed to enable troops to practice defensive operations, as well as techniques and methods to fight illegal armed groups. Alongside infantry troops, the training also includes motorized units and artillery gun teams. The second part, which will take place from February 10th to 20th, has been called Union Resolve 2022. The purpose of this latter phase is to practice offensive fighting and develop tactics for repelling external aggression, such as countering terrorism. Let's take a final short break. Join us again after this.